Action.
Hello again, and welcome to the Muse broadcast, your weekly source for enlightenment and inspiration. I'm Heather Muse, and I'm here with Katsura, who has the mission statement for Muse broadcast.
Hi.
Go ahead, Katsura.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Katsura here with you again, and our mission statement for Muse broadcast is manifestation of universal synchronization through empowerment. Muse broadcast is a network of community conversations intended to inspire, support, while we uplift all beings in a unified movement recognizing heaven on earth. And joining us today, we have Steve Corda. And would you like to say a little bit about yourself, Steve?
Yeah, hi, I'm Steve Corda, as she said. Just new to this Muse broadcast. I've been a reporter and a teacher and a coach involved in politics. And through that, I found that my mission is to create and inspire, to try to open up channels to what I used to tell the boys that I taught was the deeper current that runs through life. And that's where I tell them to cast their nets when they were doing any writing or thinking, and that's what it seems like this is about. So I'm kind of along for the ride, and I hope I have something to contribute.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, you have a lot to contribute. We're really happy to have you here.
I'm so grateful. Yes.
And so, as is customary for us right now, we're sharing what Muse means to us. I think, Steve, you just shared with us why you're drawn to Muse broadcast. If you have a few more words for that, we'd love to hear. And also what Muse means to you, the definition of Muse, and also what inspiration means to you. Would you like to share that?
Yeah, Muse is just the people what I used to refer to as strange angels, the people who show up and they don't necessarily look like angels, but they're bringing a deeper spirit, a deeper power to what you're trying to accomplish, and they sort of nudge you along to those places you're supposed to be. Like a lot of men, I sort of resisted anything spiritual, the word spiritual in the past. And so this is all new, and sort of recognizing those opportunities and where the masculine energy can really be of help. And so that's the Muses are those strange angels, and sometimes not so strange angels. Inspiration is just that slow, gentle, quiet feeling that you're doing the right thing and that you're moving in the right direction. And unfortunately, there's a lot that goes on in our society today that drowns that quiet voice out. And so a lot of my work is trying to help men, especially since that's my perspective, to hear that voice, to turn some of that noise down and to really ignore the things that seem urgent but aren't that important, and really focus in on what's true and what's resonant and what's deeper in our lives. And that makes it sound like I have no sense of humor, but that's what I do.
Thank you. That's perfect. We need so much of that in the world. Thank you. And for inspirational leaders to be leading men is so important in this day and age as well. And to be helping to bring us all together and blend the conversation between men and women. So I'm really grateful for those gifts that you have, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be exciting.
And you have definitely brought a lot of inspiration throughout just these past few weeks of getting to know you. It's been amazing. So I was looking forward to hearing more thoughts and more insights. Definitely. Totally.
And so for me, a muse is somebody who lives to inspire. That's just their only purpose, their only passion in life. And every muse has a different way that they like to inspire, or that they're inspired to inspire. Sometimes it's through inspiring action, or inspiring through writing, or inspiring through dance, or any of the arts. I really appreciate people who can inspire to action, though, because that's the most important thing when we're listening to our inner wisdom, and we want to see changes happening in the world. If we're being the change that we want to see in the world, then we also need that inspiration to actually act on what we're being. So I really appreciate that about all the muses here, and also inspiration itself to me is a really good feeling, a feeling that fuels motivation, and it's a combination of love, joy, and vitality. That's what it is for me.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's well said.
Yes.
Thanks.
Muse for myself is an energy force of inspiration that helps to give the birth of dreams, creates I believe first, healing that leads to the inspiration that allows the creativity to continue to flow, and with that, the positivity to elevate and continue to spread. And with that, as inspiration grows and spreads throughout, so does the inspiration. And with greater inspiration, it allows us to increase our vibrational frequency flows, allowing us to be more energized, and fully alive, awake, and vital throughout the inspiration process, our musings throughout our days. And as you guys were talking, I thought a little bit too, I feel like Muse also has a little bit to do with the intuition. It's almost as if a Muse is able to tap into intuition and help to bring that out a little bit more.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think intuition is another.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Intuition, I think, is another name for that still small voice I was talking about. That's how I call that intuition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, because it's feeling the subtle energies and listening to the subtle voice, which is your inner wisdom. And so if you can feel or hear your intuition, then you can feel and hear an inspired wisdom. And I think we're all talking about the same thing here when I say that. So I really appreciate those words too.
Definitely. Yeah. One thing I'm hearing from both of I'm all over the place. One thing that I'm hearing from both of you that I appreciate is the concept of healing from Katsura, which is, it seems like, especially among men, it takes some sort of a healing process before we can even have this conversation, before we kind of step away from ego and some of the old, what I think is called address the failure of cool. We stop acting like we were taught by movies and TV shows to act, and get a little bit more real. And there's a lot of times that's involved with a healing process. And Heather, your use of the word words, a lot of times men and women are having a conversation and the words don't even mean the same thing to the man that they do to the woman. And so it's a lot of, I know we're going to get into a lot of this, but those are two concepts I'm glad you both brought up.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out too. You actually are clarifying points here for us. So thank you so much.
Sure.
I like to have it clear and concise like that. You're really good at that.
Oh, thank you.
Totally.
Okay, so Katsura, do you want to go over our talking points today and then we'll just get into it?
Yes, I'd love to. So, today we will go ahead and start off with capping a little bit about boundaries and what boundaries respecting our boundaries, honoring our boundaries as well as others' boundaries, and a little bit of what that means to respect and honor boundaries, leading into trust. And we'll go ahead and define trust and what trust is in ourselves, in others, and why and how we might put boundaries on trust. And then, of course, once we stem from trust, we'll go ahead and speak upon love. We'll talk a little bit about love and what love is to us, and not only love though and what it means to us. This is a concept that is brought up quite frequently. We're going to go ahead and talk about what emotions we may attach to love and how that causes us to experience love in different ways. And I don't want to say necessarily hinder, maybe hinder or enhance love, and how we experience that. And with love, there's self-love, there's partnership love, and of course there's universal love. And then of course we did have a little bit of not homework, but inspiration work from last week's, and talking about basically the authenticity that we saw in others. The week prior, we talked about authenticity within ourselves and seeing that in our own true beings. And then last week, we were going ahead and focusing on the authenticity that we see in others. And so I guess I'll go ahead and start with boundaries and begin talking upon that. And I was thinking recently in the process of boundaries, having healthy boundaries, we don't want to have boundaries where it hinders us from really connecting with people, but we do need boundaries. And the boundaries, I've noticed, once we know our boundaries and we have our boundaries set, we are able to then really know ourselves, understand ourselves. And once we allow our boundaries if we don't know our boundaries and we don't respect our own boundaries, then others won't respect our boundaries either, because how are they supposed to know if we're not voicing that? And I've noticed that when people have strong boundaries, they know their boundaries and they're able to express that effectively, then there's a lot smoother flowing conversations. There's a lot smoother flowing relationships and building upon personal engagements with people. And I think when we are able to understand our boundaries most effectively and voice that and speak that clearly, others as well then see that, like I just mentioned. And our dark side doesn't come up as much. If we don't know our own boundaries, then people don't know how to respect that and how to honor our boundaries. And so then it has the potential for something within just to come out all of a sudden when we have those little explosions and we don't know why. And I think a lot of that can be stopped, diffused by simply voicing, this is where I am comfortable, this is where I'm not comfortable. And it's important to honor our own boundaries and then others as well, or else we're almost egging on their dark side. We're almost egging on that, like, ooh, will you have a reaction? And I think that's a big part of the boundaries and having respect there and honor for our own as well as others.
So I think a good question to answer first for each of us is, what's the definition of boundaries and what are they for? Why do we need them? Why do we feel that we need them?
Definitely.
Do you have anything about that you want to share first? Either of you?
I mean, I have some things, but go ahead and jump in, yeah.
Okay, so what are boundaries? To me, boundaries are something that is like, it's your edge, your container's edge. So if you're, okay, I'm about to talk in hippie speak. So maybe right after this, then Steve can talk in normal speak.
Then I'll try to bounce back from that.
Okay.
No, that's good. Yeah,
I feel like containers are our edges. We are a container of our spirit, of our energy, of our emotional body, and our edges are maybe our physical space that comes out. You know how it feels when somebody gets into your personal space if they're too close to you. So everybody has this sort of bubble around them, and it's an energetic bubble. And so for me, boundaries feel energetically wherever the edges are of my energetic container around me. I feel it almost set in a sensate way and in an energetic way, in an emotional way. So sometimes I actually don't know when someone's crossing my boundary until I feel uncomfortable with it, and then that's when I have to speak up. And the reason why is because my boundaries often change depending on how comfortable I am with the situation or how comfortable I am with the person, or there could be a variety of things. It could be a spiritual thing or an emotional thing that's making me want to put a boundary here or there. So for me, a boundary is something that keeps me feeling safe, and it keeps me feeling contained. And I like to be contained in some situations because it feels safer. And then in other situations, I like to feel completely expressive and free to not have a container and free to not have much of a boundary or change my boundaries. So boundaries can be physical boundaries if I'm uncomfortable with somebody touching me in a certain way, or it can be the way that somebody treats me or speaks to me. So all of it is emotional to me. Touch is emotional. The way someone treats me or presents themselves to me is emotional. And so if I feel like I'm no longer safe or I'm not able to contain the energy that I want to contain, then that is a crossing of a boundary for me.
Yeah. No, that's well put, yeah. And I don't know that it's necessarily hippie speak. I think it's just a little more advanced spiritual speak, and I'm sort of still in in elementary school for some of this stuff. But for me, boundaries are, to me, the easy, and I'm not good with them. Professionally, I'm great with them. In man world, where, we all kind of have I'm great at playing that role. Wherever there's a role to play, I'm great at that. But where the edges of the role sort of mix over in your personal life, I'm still learning about that. And for me, boundaries are just a matter of what's mine and what's yours. And that includes what are my concerns and what are your concerns. And I mean, that's where you get into a lot of areas of codependency. If you start taking on somebody else's concerns, and it's a healthy boundary for everybody has to have that set. The feeling for me of setting a boundary is like, I don't know if I've had this experience, and I'm sure a lot of us have, but that experience of you're driving your car and all of a sudden you just start being afraid. What happens if somebody crosses the yellow line? I just start, you can sort of obsess over that late at night. It's what if somebody crosses this yellow line? What am I going to do about that? And then you spend your whole life afraid of that. You're the whole drive afraid of that. But there's just a lot of faith and trust that goes into, you know what? They know what they're supposed to be doing. If they drag a little bit over here, I'm going to honk my horn. I'm going to shine my lights. I'm going to do what I need to do to avoid a collision. And that's how I think of boundaries. Everybody's got to stay in their lane. And I'm great at communicating my lane versus your lane to men. With women in personal relationships, I could use some coaching in that area. So I'm interested to see where this conversation goes.
Okay, great. So do you find that boundaries or the meaning of boundaries are different when you're speaking about with men or with women?
I think you can be clearer. I think what to a man is just direct and basic conversation. And I mean, I gotta take, my physicality. I'm 6'2", 250. A statement to a man, which is just kind of seen as, oh, okay, I understand. Yeah, you need to set this boundary. A woman could be intimidated by that or not, or wonder if I'm angry or afraid or, it's just a matter of just learning different ways to communicate. And unfortunately, I think it was the Course in Miracles that said intimacy is not an invasion of another person's privacy. Intimacy is kind of sharing the combined space, not getting into each other's space too much. And unfortunately, I grew up with ideas that once you fell in love with somebody, you just opened up all the doors, all the walls, all the windows, and then once you're uncomfortable, like you talked about, how do you reset those boundaries without hurting feelings and having to restructure the entire relationship? So these are things I'm right in the middle of right now. So these are timely conversations, but I'm not sure that I offer any expert advice in this area.
Well, I think those are great questions that you pose, actually, because I feel like periodically through the course of a relationship, it's necessary to reestablish boundaries. Sometimes people get started off on a different foot than what they wanted to get started off on. It's not right or wrong, but it's not the way that they wanted to start. Or sometimes people share too much too soon or something like that, and it makes a weird vibe in the relationship. So if you want the relationship to continue on, especially at the beginning of a relationship, you're already building a foundation. And if the foundation is a little bit wonky, then you're going to want to just redo the foundation. So that's when it is necessary to do a restart or something, I guess a restating of the boundaries. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I screwed up or we screwed up or this isn't right. It's just like, hey, you know what? I think maybe this is not the direction I wanted to start in, and I would like to start over with these as my boundaries. Sometimes we don't know what our boundaries are until, like I said before, until we've surpassed them, or the other person doesn't know what their boundaries are until we've encroached on their boundaries. So it's not wrong or right. It's all about communication and just being strong, being confident enough to be open and vulnerable and transparent and share that process with the other person. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible to share too much too soon? I mean, I know sometimes we share a lot and it gets out, and then, I've had those moments when I felt like I've shared too much too soon, but at the same time, I feel like if I were to keep it bottled up or within myself, it's not necessarily at this point, I don't know if this would be under boundaries, but it's almost hindering there. Ensuring, I feel like if we share a certain amount and we are able to express how we feel, who we are, and or what we are, what we represent, and it's not taken well, I think that says a lot about the personal relationship at that point. And maybe if those boundaries, I think it's good to be open and sharing and not fear of sharing too much too soon. Yeah, at that point, then it shows where that relationship can build from there. And in this process, of sharing too much too soon, I think that takes place when there's a lack of being able to just, I think there's a lack of connection at that point. And then I guess that affirms the need for boundaries. But, I don't know how, I guess if my question would be, if we are to share too much too soon, what would be a positive way to move forward from that in, I guess saving it, because you share too much too soon, and all of a sudden it feels all awkward and funky, and the boat's wiggling and moving. How do you stabilize, center that boat, center yourself, center your core again, so that way you can continue that relationship without saying, oh, you know what, forget it, it just isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
If I could jump in with the view from, go ahead, Heather.
No, I want you to jump in, please.
Oh, cool. And I guess we have a little delay here. Sorry to interrupt. One thing, okay. Just a little dispatch from Man World is there's this idea of, as men, I do very well when I'm just relating to somebody, but as soon as a woman uses the word relationship, I feel like I'm walking a dark room, because I feel like we went from relating and we're doing great. And there is no too much or too little. There's, hey, maybe that was a little too intense. Last night's conversation was great, but it's a little too intense for every day. And we can define how we relate each step of the way. But it seems like once that word relationship comes up, there's all these hidden expectations and assumptions of what people do in a relationship. Now, I know you guys weren't using it as a noun, but relationship as a verb or relating, that leaves it open to we can reset our boundaries periodically. But within relationship, I think people have a pretty firm idea of what should be happening. And that should is kind of a dangerous word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you bring up a really good point. We're in a time of changing social behaviors and social patterns and the way that we structure community. I feel like it's really important for people to start using the word relationship more in everyday life, because we all have a relationship to everything, to inanimate objects and to animals and to people and to our neighborhood and to whatever. And so if we start seeing things as a relationship and understanding it as a connection between myself and the other thing or the other group or the other place, then we would expand our idea of what a relationship means, and the shoulds would just start to fall away. Because there is no should. Yeah. How are you supposed to have a relationship with a tree, for example, or with nature? There is no supposed to. You just have that relationship. And just with that, same as with everything else in life. So I feel like one thing that's really important is just getting people to open up the conversation and start using the word relationship more and seeing the different relationships in their life. That would help people stop being afraid of the term.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even in business, there's a shift from transactional, what used to be sort of the male-dominated transactional business world, to more of a relationship-based business world. And so it's one of those things men are finding we have to understand that, but we are scared because the one relationship we're used to is an area where we're just kind of always wrong or always in the dark. And that's a general statement, but I'm just saying this is a good conversation to bring back to the men's Muse group as we bring these things up and kind of come to some decisions.
Right, and maybe having a conversation around the definition of relationship and what other kinds of relationships there are in your life as well. would be a good idea.
Yeah. Definitely.
Katsura, did we answer your question? Did you want to restate your question briefly? Because I don't know if we answered it. Was it? Oh, it was how do you get reset if you feel like you shared?
Yes. How do you balance, stabilize once more if sharing too much has happened?
Yeah. So the first thing, this is really important for the Muse broadcast. I feel like anyone who is committed to anything Muse, to anything that's inspiring, and to being your authentic self, it's important to establish that commitment every single day. And that's going to be your grounding and centering every day before you even start your day. And then when things throw you a little bit off balance throughout your day, then it'll be easier to go right back to that core authentic being and get grounded there. And sometimes it's in your stomach, like in your gut, where you feel your truth or your inspiration or your intuition. Sometimes it's in your heart. It's wherever you really feel it, but it's grounding yourself there.
Definitely.
And then coming to people to speak to them from this place of grounding and of complete authenticity. And if you're doing that, and if you're in complete authenticity and you're sharing this entire amount of yourself and you're just open and flowing, and then because of the other person's reaction, then maybe it's too much too soon for them. It wasn't for you because you're just being your authentic self and this is how it naturally came out and evolved. Then it's not too much too soon for you, but it's too much too soon for them maybe. So then that energy is brought into the relationship for both of you to negotiate. So you're negotiating that energy of that feeling of too much too soon. It's not like it's wrong or bad or it was too much too soon, you did something wrong. As long as you're being your authentic self and they're being their authentic self and you're willing to come together with clear communication from that place of personal empowerment, from that place of authenticity, then you can renegotiate anything. You can reset anything. That's how I see it.
One important word I heard you use was feeling and feelings. And in relationships, the best, basically the only effective communication I've found, and I am an amateur at relationships, interpersonal relationships. If you just confine the conversation to what each person is feeling, then there's no room for argument because you can't tell someone they're not feeling what they're feeling. And so if you say, you can argue about what my intention was, but you can't argue about what I felt like my feeling was. And then if you feel, uplifted by what I said, I can say the same thing to two different people. One feels uplifted, one feels potentially manipulated. And it doesn't change how I felt about what I said, but I do have to respond to what feeling I act with it. All I can do is tell them, well, here's what I intended, here's what I felt. I certainly don't want you to feel manipulated, or if they feel uplifted, then maybe that conversation continues, But I guess the point is to just limit it to feelings. Ideas, eventually we have to discuss ideas, but that's where you have arguments.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And it is a feeling that guides us. I feel like it's intuition and inspiration. There's an emotion there, and emotions drive everything in the world, everything in life. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right on that.
Everything worthwhile, yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So, it seems like a little bit what I got from that was, within that, you're talking about kind of, getting back to our core, feeling our core, our center, and almost kind of, seems like it links with our shield, kind of, letting it be. And it was interesting, a friend brought up recently that maybe shields aren't as necessary, maybe we should be open-hearted and open, so that we don't need a shield. And and this kind of made me think upon that line there. And I don't think necessarily maybe shields are necessary for deflecting and taking people away, but maybe a shield, it can just simply be in keeping us, once again, centered in our core. And with that, once we have that shield, which isn't necessarily repelling, it's just allowing our inner light to glow, our inner authenticity to shine at that point. And so, thank you. Definitely gave me some insights there. And I guess, I was thinking also, some topics you brought up, Steve, and kind of understanding the feelings of other people really leads a lot to compassion, having compassion there, and trusting at that point, trusting how other people are able to share, and in that process, I think, when we're trusting once at that point, let me get my thoughts kind of straight here. As we are able to share, even maybe at uncomfortable points, I think at that state of our personal being is when we build the trust in ourselves. We build the trust in what we are presenting to the world and who we really are. And as that trust begins to build up, then we can most effectively share and be comfortable with that, and others as well. I think the more comfortable we are in sharing, then others can be more receptive to it comfortably as well. And then that helps a little bit of the trust to build. Kind of like leading here into the trust aspect. What do you guys see as trust? And how would you define trust?
Do you want to go first, Steve?
Sure. Yeah, it's I always I'm going to sort of piggyback off what Heather was saying about getting grounded, and what I'm hearing is a practice that I have, which, spiritual practices vary with the success I attach to it, but I try to attach to something outside myself, higher, larger than myself. I call it spirit or intuition. I try to really get connected to that. I remember that the goal is service and not necessarily getting anything for myself, and that whatever I give away comes back to me. So that's my selfishness, my greediness is kind of taken care of by that. I'll do a lot of great things for people if I feel like it's going to come back to me eventually. And I can trust in that. I can trust in that process. I can trust that I don't have ulterior motives, or, that what I say I want to do is what I'm trying to do. And once I get into, and so that's basically my level of trust right now. If I move out of that, I'm afraid I'm just like everybody else in that sort of fear-based world of there's what I want to get and what I want to have, and somebody else may have that, or may have more, or may have something better than I feel like I have. So then I run into trust and fear problems. For me, trust is something larger than myself, and tapping into a spirit or a higher power, and remembering that I'm here to serve others. And within that's where all my gains are going to come to me. And so hopefully you guys have a better defined practice than that, but that's the only definition I've found of trust over the years. Okay.
Yeah. Trust is a challenge that has been up for me lately. And for a while, it's been something I'm working with. Because I'm naturally very shy, and I've realized that the root of that is having a lack of trust for people that I don't know. And then if I don't trust them right off the bat, then they get this weird feeling from me and they don't trust me. And then it's a vicious cycle, and then we never have a friendship, So, where my trust is coming from initially for me is coming from my trust in my authentic self, having that complete faith in my own authenticity, and knowing that I'm fully committed to it, and that being fully myself, no matter what, is is always the best path, the best step for me, and it draws the people to me who are supposed to be connected to me, and it draws me to people I'm supposed to be speaking to. And so I do also very much believe in a higher power and in a more organized strategy of the universe, I guess, on an energetic level. That's really important to me, and every day with my meditations, it's very similar to yours, Steve. I'm also committing myself every single day to service through inspiration. So I need to have that courage and that faith that the inspiration that comes up to me is the way that I'm supposed to be and the way that I'm supposed to serve. And if I don't trust that, if I doubt that, I doubt everything around me. I doubt people that are coming into my life. I don't even know if I should trust them because I'm not trusting myself. So that's really what it comes down to. When I'm not trusting others, it's because I'm not trusting myself. And I've recognized that about me. And so that's my challenge that I've really been embracing and working on, and also opening up about and being transparent with, because that's another aspect of trust. Just trusting that my process is perfect and it's okay to be transparent about it and not worry about what other people think or how they're judging me or any of that. Well, we have a new person in the conversation. Wonderful. This is Lacey, right?
Yes. Hi, Lacey.
I don't know if her microphone's on.
I don't know what's going on. My computer is doing something really strange.
Did you mean to come on as an alien?
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I didn't know that was an option.
That is intense.
This is a change of policy.
Oh my god, I love it.
Totally unexpected. I don't know what to say. Wow.
Okay. So Lacey, I love it though. I embrace this because it's funny and it's fun and it's different and it's creative, and you didn't even try to do it. You couldn't even replicate this.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's really interesting because aliens have been.
Right. Aliens. Great aliens want to interfere with one of my very important boundaries. That's what I've heard they do.
Yes, they probably do. Ooh, here we go. Oh, wait.
Oh, lost her.
Yay! There you are.
I don't know what that was about.
That was great.
Hello.
It's fun while it lasts.
This makes us feel a little more comfortable. Maybe one day we'll have like an intergalactic council, but right now it's just humans where we're feeling comfortable with our boundaries.
That would have been,
Yeah.
The mouth was
So
moving and the eyes were blinking and
we
everything.
were just talking.
Thank you.
Lacey, we were just talking about boundaries, what that means to us and why it's important to us, and also trust now. We're on to trust as well. Do you have anything that was coming up for you or that you would like to share or question about regarding boundaries and trust? I would definitely love to hear some of your wisdom on this, and if it's not right at this moment, it might come through during the conversation.
No, it's very important to set good boundaries, and I have myself had to learn and grow through setting boundaries. I was the type of person that would let everyone walk all over me, and I had to learn the hard way of setting boundaries, and it's just very important to let people know where you stand and be true to who you are and not allow people to project what they are going through upon you. So and because you're taking in a lot of energy from people when they are trying to overstep your boundaries. So I guess really it's important to have good boundaries, just because you don't want to taking all that negative, maybe not negative energy, but all the energy of other people that are projecting whatever it is upon you. So you need to know who you are and be firm in that. And yeah, that's my thought right now. I apologize. That's my thought.
Oh, it's all perfect. I have a question about that. So what's your definition of boundaries? How did you know when people were crossing your boundaries? Like, what does that mean exactly?
That I start to feel uncomfortable, or going out of my zone to like just kind of interfering with things that I feel like I need to get done, or asking me to do things that I'm not comfortable with, or when people ask you continually to do things and they don't give in return, or even a thank you or have any gratitude, that for me is overstepping boundaries. Is once you give and give and give, and then you don't even receive any gratitude, and to continue to entertain all of that is kind of overstepping my boundaries.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm hearing you say that boundaries really are about you taking care of yourself. That's like the main theme that I'm getting out of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to build on something she said where it's not just necessarily about keeping people out, it's also about keeping some of those good things in for yourself. Yeah. I have tons of willpower and almost no won't power. And I give and give and give and give, and which is just as I hear myself say that, that's pretty ego. But you feel like you give a lot, and then you realize that there's nothing left. You haven't been giving out of abundance, and that's when you start to resent the people you've been giving to. And a lot of times they just don't know that they're taking too much. They think you have a lot to give, and that's kind of what you've led them to believe, or what I had led them to believe. So there's a lot of sharp boundary resets where people are confused and surprised and upset because suddenly, I'm not articulating a boundary. I just feel like I've given too much, and now I'm just kind of isolating and disappearing. So I need to remember that boundary. That's, in order to do what I need to do, I need to be keeping some of the good stuff for myself, which is hard.
Right.
If you want to inspire and be in service work, that's kind of hard to justify that, what you keep for yourself.
It's not hard to justify it if you're committed to service, I think. And people have to understand that. Anybody that you come into contact with, if that is your absolute commitment in life and that's how you serve, there's no question.
Yeah. And it comes back to you. It's always that inside job everybody talks about. But like Lacey said, you do this is one of those things you learn the hard way sometimes. I think people who want to give a lot, we make that mistake, and it's a painful mistake. And we find out that we weren't always giving to people who were grateful, and that we sometimes gave to the point that it was hard to recover what we had given away.
Yes. Kind of like...
So I just wanted to make sure those points were brought up.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And kind of like if we're watering a garden and we have these flowers to take care of, if we just keep watering and putting our energy kind of too far out there in many different directions, it's not going to be as effective. It dwindles it a little bit. And for our own sake, in that constant ebb and flow, it's good to have that set in and put our energy where it is most appreciated and where it's ready and accepted. And accepted isn't the right word, but where it's going to be appreciated, and then that will return. There will be that effective energy coming back, and our cups will stay full, and we'll be able to more fully give at that point and serve.
That feels so good. Thank you for bringing that point up, Katsura. Yeah, so it comes back to our commitment to ourselves and our own responsibility of who we're putting ourselves in front of, who we're attracting into our lives, and our responsibility.
Is that a chicken?
Toward. Yeah, our responsibility.
That was better than a chicken.
That was better than a chicken. What was it? A frisbee? A green frisbee.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Nice.
We also have to be aware of how we're showing up in the world as well. I was one of those people who, and maybe I still am to a certain extent, I learned a lack of trust. And it was good not to trust some of the situations I grew up in. But my response was to become a football player and a wrestler and a boxer and to work out and to be perfectly intimidating and somebody that you didn't, that just walked down the street and you thought, I don't want to tangle with that person. Well, that's a hard guard to let down. You know, I was the guy walking around, inside screaming for people to love me, but outside walking around with a scowl on my face and all these keep away, don't come close. And that's a fine response, to some of the hurts in life. But it was, and people are not going to necessarily tell us how we're showing up. We have to sort of be open to what are the outcomes? What's coming to us? And what do we have to do to get those things that we want from life? Unfortunately, I was so other centered. If it was the other person's problem that I wasn't getting what I wanted or that type of thing, it's only lately that I've really sort of looked at how do I show up? And I mean, you can't make yourself taller or shorter, and you can affect your weight a little bit, or you can work out, but once you figure out how you show up, you can sort of have fun with that, and you can make that, it's just like anything else. You can make it part of the way that you inspire others. But, I guess when I taught the female version of what I did was the person who was the girl who was kind of depressed and wore the goth type clothes and sent out a don't talk to me vibe. But inside you could see, this is somebody that really wants you to reach out to them. But it's like, porcupines might want somebody to reach out and hug them too, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And I guess,
so I guess the point. Yeah.
Please make the point.
Oh no, I do this teacher thing where I talk myself into my point. The point is that we also have to be aware of how we appear. I'm used to having people that have to sit and listen to me for an hour.
Yeah.
And then at minute 59, 30 seconds, I get to my point.
I could listen to you for an hour. I really appreciate what's coming out of you at this moment. This is actually really resonating with me and what I've been experiencing this week as well. I've also been being very aware of how I'm coming across to other people, and sometimes I come across as standoffish when I'm actually I'm feeling like I want to protect myself because I'm not feeling like I can trust. And so just like that goth girl that you're talking about who really just wants to be protected, she wants to keep everybody away because she doesn't trust anybody, for example. And then it comes across as standoffish to the other people because that's just the way that people experience it. So I really do resonate with what you're talking about. And so then my question is, how can we stay in trust? How can we stay in a place that feels safe with our own boundaries, and so we know we're protected, and then trust everything and go out and reach out to people in that way. So we're trusting ourselves that we are protected and we have our own boundaries in place, and then we're trusting that reaching out to other people will allow them to see us more on our level, or to see more of our authentic selves and not of our protection self, I guess. Like, how can we blend both together?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and you're talking about hippie talk, and here's where I feel like I'm going to do hippie talk. The first thing I think of is just our feelings, like when and honestly, just how we feel when we are approaching a certain area where we're going. And if there's anything, if we're questioning, should I not? If you're really questioning something and you don't feel energized for something, then there's probably a reason for that. And it's best that if you have the option to say no, then it's good to say no. And trust yourself that you don't have to be at every every occasion that's taking place. And the more, as we build that trust, as we start to really listen to, and this is our intuition, our what we feel, and when we feel that energizingness from it, like it sparks that inspiration, and then we really have that, and I want to say, just heartwarming. When we feel heartwarmed and energized by something, then we begin to trust that we will make the right decisions, and we don't have to try so hard to make the right decisions. But as that trust begins to grow and we listen to those feelings and our energy and how our energy feels approaching something, then we will be synced up in the areas and where we need to be at the right time. And it'll happen more naturally. And sometimes I think it starts off like, for me personally, it started off kind of feeling like, I really like, there's those feelings of like really want to, and I'm going to, but then kind of stepping back. And the reason I was wanting to go to these certain things and felt like I had to go was because I felt like I'd be missing something if I didn't. In all honesty, I just kind of wanted to be where everyone was going, and then I think that comes into wanting to fit in. And so then I realized, it's okay. Sometimes we're not missing out on things. And in fact, we're just keeping ourselves at an energized level. Like we're keeping our cups full. And so then we can move on, and things will come into play where, once again, where we have that full, aliveness, that vitality, and we are at a place where not only are we feeling energized and we're having a good time and we're not missing out on other things, but we're gaining so much more. And as we start to make those choices and saying, at first it's okay, I am going to miss out, and then we go in that direction, we start to see what we were missing out by not really listening to that feeling, of that kind of, just kind of going along with the flow, and really just, bringing life to life, if that makes sense. Being life instead of it coming on you, just happening to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So how would you, Katsura, how would you suggest that somebody take the first step in trusting, because the first step is trusting yourself. So how do you make that first step in really trusting yourself and going through a day like that?
At first, I think, honestly, I'm at a point where just do what you want. Honestly, do what you want. If you want to say no, say no. And trust that that's the right thing. And if you want to say yes, you really want to, but there's that hesitancy, forget about that hesitancy and just say yes. I think the key point is doing exactly what you want. If your intentions are pure, and they are, if you want to feel full and you want to engage with people and really live your full potential, your intentions will be pure. And you need to just take that step. And if it's hard to say no, but you really want to say no, you need to just say no. If it's hard to say yes and you really want to say yes, you need to just say yes. And then that comes back to action, just taking that action and moving forward with that. And that will get the ball spinning in the direction where it becomes more natural. It just at that point will begin to flow more smoothly. And it won't be hard to say no because you'll just know, like, no, that's not quite me. And it won't be hard to say yes anymore because you've experienced that. And you're like, okay, yeah, totally. If that helps.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. So actually, Lacey, I have a question for you, and it's piggybacking off what Katsura was just saying. So you were talking about boundaries and then being able to trust yourself to set those boundaries in motion, or to keep those boundaries, or to speak them and clarify them. And so you have some experience in getting to that first step of trusting yourself and then taking action on it. How do you find it to be the most beneficial, or what's the most supportive way for you to trust yourself? Do you have like an individual going within things? Do you go up to a higher source? Do you have a little support group of people who trust you and who encourage you to trust yourself? Or is it a combination? Or what really works for you?
That's a really good question. For what works for me is I go above. I go to my higher power. The first intuition I ask God, what, the universe, what route I need to take. And then I trust myself. And I do have a wonderful external network of people who trust me and believe in me. But really, it all comes down to what my internal, what my soul feels and what the universe knows is right. And I go off of that. I go off of what my soul feels is right. And then everything else is just secondary to that, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. For me, it's really important for me to have a connection with my higher self or a greater source, like what Steve was just talking about. If I don't have that, then I feel like I'm losing my anchor, or I'm losing my connection to my authentic self. And so making sure that I have a strong connection to a higher power on a daily basis is really what helps me locate my internal GPS system, I guess is what I would call it. Yeah, so it's very similar.
Not to use, it's perfect.
Yeah, thank you. How great minds think alike.
Yes.
I do feel that a support group is really, really important, which is why I'm so passionate about Muse broadcasting and this open community conversation is so that we do have a support group and we can continue on with this support outside of the broadcast, just with forums or with our website or with Facebook, with our Facebook group. I only have a few people in my life who completely and utterly trust my authentic being. They know sometimes better than me that I am so wise, that I have the most depth and wisdom for myself than anybody else has for me. And they reinforce that for me. And actually those few people that I have like that don't live in Portland right now. So I am looking for a bigger support group so that I can have that in-person contact and that in-person continuing of trusting and reflecting my trust back to myself, and I can reflect their trust back to them and have that more interaction. So I do think it's important to have all of them, and I'm still in the process of getting more of my support group together. Maybe that later on we can talk about inspiration work and maybe talk about how we can we'll think about ideas during the week of how we can gather a support group around us for things like that. And Steve, did you have more to speak to on this, actually? I think it has so much wisdom in it. So.
Oh, excellent. The rare day. One of my personal GPS system for this, and even with people. I'd love to, on my best days, I'm connecting, I'm meditating. And there's some days when it's a grind. I'm meditating, all I do is worry about work or about, is this person going to text, or just all the silly stuff that you worry about. Does it make my heart feel bigger or my heart feel smaller? And that's ultimately the test for me. And if it's something that makes my heart feel bigger, well, I'm going to keep doing it. And if it's something that makes my heart feel smaller, depending on my mood, I might keep doing that until I feel enough pain from doing it that I go the other direction. And that's kind of where I feel like with people, finding that support group. And the strange angels, the people that in the past I might not have thought, maybe these people don't have as much to offer me. Maybe my times, I was so addicted to achievement and moving forward and achieving goals that I didn't necessarily take time to deal with people who made my heart feel bigger. That's why I call them strange angels. They don't ever look like angels. They just show up, and what they do is they make you feel better and they make your life better, and there we go. So yeah, once again, to talk my way to my point, does it make my heart feel smaller? Does it make my heart feel bigger? And I want my heart to feel bigger. So that's what I go for.
Yeah.
And once you get a little of that, you can get greedy for it. Yeah.
It's a great way of putting it.
I know, and that is the most simple technique that I've heard anybody say at one time.
Yeah.
Does it make your heart?
Hey, you want simple techniques? You have come to the right place. Thank you.
Good. I love it. I can't wait to hear more. I am going to be listening to the Male Muse broadcast. Watching.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yes. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is I feel out of my depth with this crew, but yeah, I can't wait to see what the guys and I come up with. I'll take from this to them and see what we can do.
Awesome. So, shall we go on to our third talking point today, right now?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Totally.
Time seems right.
Yeah. And, so I guess, start off with what emotions we put on, actually, Heather, I think you brought this one up. I think you can clearly, define this topic a little bit better, more clearly.
Oh, can you state it again? Because I don't remember what it is.
Okay, let me make my understanding is how the different emotions that we put into love and how it affects the way we love. So if we put emotions of whatever it may be, happiness, beauty, how does that affect us? How does it affect the way we love? The emotions that we feel, how does it affect the way we love? And I guess, with that, I guess we can define a little bit what love means to us and what emotions we house with that, and does it affect our love?
Yeah. So that goes along with trust, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
So if, I guess the